The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the bacon is sizzling. Welcome to the Daily Swole.
Welcome everyone to episode 167 of the Daily Mother Swole. Episode 167, and I first off want to congratulate the Cleveland Indians. Hell yeah, go Tribe in the World Series, so that's going to be freaking awesome. If you're a big fan of the movie Major League, it's happening. It's happening. It's about freaking time, so good shit. Today's episode is titled 3 Benefits of Training High Reps to Failure. And what that means is high reps are generally considered anything 15 and above, not in the hypertrophy range, so to speak. There's certain general ranges for reps. Usually 1 to about 5 or 6 repetitions is considered more maximum strength type training. 6 to 12 is about hypertrophy training. And then anywhere from 13, 14, 15 and above is considered more muscular endurance. So this episode is going to discuss the benefits, or 3 benefits specifically for high rep training. I'm not talking about any specific body part particularly. I will talk a little bit more about legs when I talk about high rep training and just certain things that people avoid even when they're trying to build muscle mass. So this goes for anyone. Now, when I say anyone, I mean women as well. I've been getting a lot of questions recently in the last day or so, particularly about women starting weight training and if they should be training different than men, if there's any different kind of stipulation for females working out. And in general, no, there isn't, because it's still a human being, it's still a human body. Women do not have to worry about bulking up like a man would because of their lack of testosterone production. Women are not prone to building as much muscle mass as men. Another reason why women, just naturally, even without lifting, are generally not as strong as men. They don't have as much physical strength in general as a man does because of testosterone production and just evolution. It's just the way it is. So when you're getting into the gym, it's important to get moving and do the basics. We all have arms, legs, the same body parts for the most part. And the training will be the same. A woman will develop and tighten and harden and grow muscle with the same rep range that a man would. Women that don't want to get bulky and they go really high rep and they don't go to failure and they do lighter weight usually don't see as much results because they're not stimulating muscle growth, because they're avoiding wanting to look like a guy. I don't want to get big. You're not going to get big. A woman has to tighten up her diet, and most of the time it's muscle getting inflamed and water retention and body fat that's on top. That's why a woman might feel like she looks thick when she starts lifting weights heavy. That's not the case. Women do not build muscle the same way guys do unless you're taking anabolics. That being covered, let's talk about the 3 major points I want to cover about. And no, I don't look like a gay Jesus. I look like Jesus. I look like Jesus. I don't look gay. I look like Jesus. I have long hair and a beard. This is the bullshit on Periscope that I have to deal with for those of you that are on the podcast. That brings me to my next point. Triple live broadcast, Facebook, Periscope, and Busker. Also, you can find every single episode. Where's my card? Every single episode on YouTube at Swolenormous. So if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, get on that pony. I have about 600 videos, exercise videos, driving while gaining series, Swole Motion, my vlog. I also have a raw series, motivational series, my spotlight series, which is brand new. Every episode of the Daily Swole is on YouTube. Swolenormous on YouTube. So you have a shitload of content. So if you're not on my YouTube channel, YouTube at Swolenormous, check it out. Tons of great content. And if you are unable to watch or play the video and listen to it, it's just really hard to sit down, I get it, and watch a 15, 20-minute show. You can listen to it while you do the dishes, play with the kids, drive to work. This is a podcast, thus the microphone in front of my grill. You can catch it on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher. Every single episode of The Daily Swole. And believe it or not, the podcast is just as popular, if not more popular, than the YouTube videos on for The Daily Swole. So the actual podcast is freaking huge. It's great. It's blowing up, and it's a great way to consume this content. This is very, 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 very deliverable and consumable as a podcast. So if you've never tried listening to the podcast, check it out. And hell yeah, you can get muscles to look cool. You want muscles to feel good about yourself and to be strong and longevous for your entire life. Let's talk about those 3 points of going high reps to failure. Defining failure. Training to failure means going until you can't do another rep. So if you're doing 15 reps, 16 reps, 17 reps, 18, 19, 20, doesn't matter. You're going to absolute failure. I do not recommend necessarily doing 100 repetitions, but it depends. I have done it, and you can get some great burnout action from doing super high repetitions. Not necessarily every set, but it's a great component. You have 2 types of muscle fibers, type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. Type 1 are also referred to as slow twitch. They're better for lower force production and endurance. And type 2 fibers are better for force production, but they have a higher fatigue rate. They get tired, but they are able to produce a lot of force. So you have type 1, slow twitch, more endurance. Type 2, fast twitch, more power, less endurance. Muscle endurance is important because it's a component of strength. Muscular endurance and high repetition gets deeper into the muscle fibers. It gets deeper into those stabilizer muscles. Your stabilizers, the muscles that are on the joint, that support the joint, that keep the body safe while you're exerting high force production, where you're creating a lot of internal tension and you're moving heavy weights to build most of your muscle mass. Those stabilizer muscles, the rotator cuff, the internal and external rotators of the hip, all those tiny muscles that keep your joints aligned while you use the pectoralis major, the latissimus dorsi, the biceps, the triceps. Those stabilizers are activated with higher repetitions, with longer and more time under tension. They also do respond better to slower movements, but in general, higher repetitions, more time under tension, those type 1 fibers are going to turn on. I want you to think of this, they're always working, but I want you to think of this as going into a warehouse and turning on the lights. It takes maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes for them to turn on to full brightness, or like a stadium, a soccer stadium, a baseball stadium, they turn on those lights at like 3, 4 o'clock. So by the time it gets dark, they're fully lit and they're fully on. It takes time for those lights to turn on, and it takes time for those type 1 fibers and those stabilizer muscles to turn on, which is why they require higher repetitions and longer duration for each individual repetition. So my second point before I go into my second point, this is part of the second point. The muscular endurance is a component of strength. Working muscular endurance is a component of strength, which is a component of hypertrophy. If you're looking to get big, and what I mean by big is you're looking to develop muscle. I'm not talking about getting to be Mr. Olympia. I'm talking about building muscle. Yes, that means, quote, tone women. Yes, that means getting lean and ripped guys. It means building and developing muscle. If you are training a component of strength, you're training a component of hypertrophy, which means you're training a component of muscular development. You're developing your muscle fibers. You're increasing the cross-sectional area of the muscle fibers. You're increasing the ability of those muscle fibers to exert force, increasing their natural tone and their ability to saturate with nutrients, with creatine, with glycogen. You're creating the body that you want. You're creating that sculpture. That being said, muscle endurance is a component of strength, and if you want to build muscle, if you want to have that tight body physique, you need to get into those muscular endurance type fibers, which are type 1. You can't just be doing heavy strength all the time. You're not going to get all the benefits of your training. Second point leads me right into it. Type 1 fiber activation. Briefly touched upon that because that's a component of muscular endurance. Type 1 fibers are deep in the muscle tissue. Deep in the muscle tissue, and the reason why this is a second point and not exactly the first point is because they don't get a lot of stress. They don't get a lot of stress. Hold on. Let me block that guy. They don't get a lot of stress. Think about legs. When you walk, your legs have a lot of endurance because they're designed to walk and to be, you're designed to use your legs for locomotion regularly. But you don't walk to failure. Your body has a great ability to provide locomotive power for a long time without actually getting to complete fatigue and failure. When you go heavy for legs, okay, you go heavy, 5, 6, 7 reps, you go to failure. A lot of type 2 muscle fibers, a lot of fast twitch, you're able to produce a lot of force with the legs. Yeah, 20 rep squats, or this is where I'm going with this. Going high reps to failure, your body never experiences. Your body does not experience that kind of moderate weight to absolute failure. That kind of stress and neural overload is shocking for the body. It's a lot to handle. Your body and those muscles that have the ability to produce low levels of force for an extended period of time are designed to do so with very minimal weight. If you add just enough resistance, let's say to get and to fail in that 18, 20, 25, 30 rep range, or you push yourself past that point of absolute, really going to absolute complete failure with a higher repetition range than 6, 8, 10 repetitions, you are going to absolutely shock your body into growth. It does not work the same way if you're just doing high repetitions and stopping at 15 or 20 because you counted that high. I want you to think about this. I've talked about failure before, and this is something that I want to talk about tomorrow in more depth. And I'm leading this in. There's going to be a cliffhanger. We're going to talk more about failure tomorrow. Tomorrow's episode is talking about failure, and it could be one of the most important daily swoles and shows that I've done thus far. This is number 167. Understanding what failure means, what training to failure means, is probably, I would say, 99.9% chance none of you have either do train to failure currently, even if you think you do, and some of you may have never actually done a set to failure. It is very, very challenging. It's very difficult to actually get to failure. The concept of failure is very easily thrown around. Your body's mental understanding of failure is very weak and fluffy. Your ability to withstand failure is even less capacity. High intensity training is a gimmick. High intensity training is a gimmick that's been coined by more contemporary workout styles. Intensity training is going to failure, is lifting heavy weight hard. That's high intensity. The interval stuff is just, I'm working out really hard, now I'm not working out hard. And now I'm working out hard again. It's just sequence. It's pretty much like set after set of working hard. So you can't technically work past failure because that's an oxymoron. Failure is failure. High intensity interval training just means that you can do more total work at a higher level because you're stopping. And the reason why you have to stop is because if you continue training continuously, you cannot work at a high intensity physiologically. It's impossible. You have to tone down the intensity in order to create that duration. So the interval or the break is like doing a heavy set, resting for 2 minutes. Doing a heavy set, resting for 2 minutes. That's technically kind of like an interval. It's periods of hard work with periods of rest, allowing you to produce a high level of output with the creatine phosphate or the fast glycolytic system from oxidative production. I was going off. I wasn't necessarily answering your question specifically. I was just talking about that topic because a lot of people have that incorrect notion in mind. But remember, what do you want? What do you want? Cardio is not necessary unless you love cardio. It's more about training your body to metabolize nutrients, to lift weights, and sculpt and give your body the fuel it needs and no more. And most of the time when people struggle, they fall back on cardio. They actually deplete muscle mass. They get flat. And that's why bodybuilders try to minimize cardio while they're bulking because it inhibits muscle mass. The only reason bodybuilders do it is because they're on anabolics, they're taking steroids, and they can do cardio without getting flat, moving into a competition and lose excess water and dry out a lot intramuscularly. But that's extreme competition style dieting and training, and that's unhealthy and unrealistic. So don't get twisted with what a bodybuilder does, because that's not actually health. That's a bodybuilding. That's like dieting. That's like, anorexia for a runway model. It's not healthy. It looks like, holy shit, they're muscular and they're ripped. It's extremely stressful for the body. It's not a healthy sport. I don't think anyone would say it's a healthy sport. You can make an argument that it's healthy, but it's not healthy. It's not a healthy sport. It's extremely stressful on the nervous system, on the physical system, mentally. It's really, really stressful on the body. So that's number 2, going to failure. Using those muscles. I'm talking about bodybuilding. Using those high endurance muscles, using those type 1 fibers to failure. They're not used to it. They're less used to it. They're designed to go high rep and be able to handle it. They're not used to going high rep under stress to that absolute failure point. That's why it's super effective. The third and final reason why I want to talk about today is that when you are going high repetition, you're using a less external force, you're able to perform the workout safely or safer with less risk of injury than if you were working with a larger external load. If you are working with a great external force, there's more internal tension on the muscles and on the joints, and you're at a higher risk of injury. First off, if you don't have a spotter, any kind of reps to failure, you should have a spotter. Any kind of reps to failure, because failure means the last possible rep you could possibly do when you can't lift the weight. You need someone there. I don't care if you're lifting 10 pounds or 1,000 pounds. You need a spotter, at least one. But if you're working on your own, and we're talking about maybe going close to failure, because obviously if you don't have a spotter, you shouldn't technically be going to failure. That risk is up to you. But when you're going with a lighter weight, you are able to more safely lift and perform the activity, because the amount per repetition of internal force that your body has to overcome, the external force has to overcome concentrically and has to withstand eccentrically, the body has a better chance of survival and staying safe. Whereas instead of benching 300 pounds, you're benching 150 30 times as opposed to 300 pounds 4 times, for example. So if, let's say, oh my God, you can't lift the weight anymore, and 135, you have to rest it down your chest, you could easily roll that off, as opposed to 315, you do 4 reps, you can't lift that, you're stuck, you're in trouble, and you could have a real problem. It's safer because of the decrease in specific tension for every single repetition, and not to mention you're also getting the benefits of working those type 1 muscle fibers to failure. I am not saying only do high reps to failure. I'm not saying only do low reps to failure, but you need to add variety. Another component, and possibly number 4 if you want to consider it this way, is you are able to add more variety to your workouts. You could do the exact same workout program, same exercises, and all you have to do is drop the weight and go to high reps to failure, and you're getting variety. Remember I told you about adaptation, how you don't want to do too much variety because your body can't adapt to too many things at one time? Subtle adaptations or subtle changes to allow those adaptations can give you more options in variety for your training while keeping the general programming and the general structure of your workouts the same. Let's say you have limited access to equipment. This is another way where you can add variety to your workout. This is another way where you can add some different components if you're limited with your choice of exercises. This is why high rep training to failure, it also builds character like a motherfucker. High reps to failure is brutal. Leg training, high rep to failure, I dare you. I dare you to actually go to failure. Tomorrow, I am going to give you the straight, no bullshit, skinny, lay down, smack you upside the head, legitimate truth about failure training and why you are probably not training to failure and why you should. It takes a lot of balls. It takes a lot of vagina. It takes a lot of whatever you want to call it. It takes a lot of hard work and shutting down things and synapses in your brain patterns that are designed on an evolutionary level to protect your body. And shutting those things down is very hard because we're wired to survive and to protect, but doing so will allow you to see more change and more results than you ever thought possible naturally. And this is usually one of those dark gray Pandora box areas that most people don't get to in their training. That's why they look at me, oh my God, you did that? Oh, you're taking roids, or, I can never get like that. I wish I could be like you, man. Well, you don't train anywhere near as hard as I do. And this is the reason why. And I'm going to explain that tomorrow. So thank you for joining me for episode 167. I'll see you tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern time for episode 168 of The Daily Mother Swole. Remember, triple live broadcast, Facebook, Periscope, and Busker. Catch all these episodes here, YouTube, Swolenormous. YouTube at Swolenormous, youtube.com/Swolenormous. And if you want to see a shot of my body, you can go to my YouTube channel and see plenty of it. My workout videos, all sorts of videos. So you can go there and check that out. And also podcast, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher if you want to hear and catch up all the episodes of The Daily Swole. So thank you for joining me. I'll stay briefly for a few minutes on Periscope after for Q&A, and I will see you all tomorrow for episode 168 about failure. Don't miss it. It's going to be the tits. Peace out. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Another!